Hey guys, back in the shop today. Just before I get started on this frame, I just want to talk a little bit about what we're working on. The whole point is I've wanted forever to build an actual old school hot rod. Flathead powered, Model A frame rails, something light. In this case we're ending up with a Roadster body. It's a 25 Model T body. And what am I going to do with it? I've always wanted to build this, and then last year I got watching a bunch of videos of the Pine Tree Jamboree held at Winterport Speedway just outside of Bangor in Maine. Mike Latender has This Old Hot Rods. Had a bunch of videos up from him being there with a 32 that he'd borrowed. Now he's building a car for next year. And right afterward I talked to him on the internet for a while. And he said, well, build one. And if you're doing it, share it with us. So I said, what the heck? Might as well share it. The guy that I get the Model T body from. Hey, share with us what you're doing. Yeah, okay. So eventually I got to the point, I said, well, if I'm going to share it with this guy, that guy, the other guy, let's just do it on YouTube. And so I started doing this. Just a couple of people that planted the seed or watered the seed that got me actually to do something I wanted to do for quite a while. You might notice that first video I posted, it was from like 8 years ago. I had the idea then, never followed through with it. So now we're actually building our Model T, or Model A, whatever you want to call it. Model AT, if you want to split the difference. So right now I'm just looking at the frame rails and I'm going to get started working on those. A couple people have asked, why'd you bother taking the frame apart? Right? It was just one frame rail, you needed to straighten it out. Why didn't you leave the rest of the stuff together and go from there? Well, I would have, except on the part that looks like the good side actually has a little kink in it just at the center cross member. It does, a Model A frame does start to kick out there, but in front of it, it had a little kink in it. So I couldn't get anything clamped on there to get it straightened out as it was. So the only way to do it easily was to take that apart. Now, didn't have a front cross member in it, so didn't have to take that apart. Center cross member is one for a 4-cylinder. Probably not going to use it. I may end up using it in some way or another, but probably not. So the only thing I really had to take off was the rear cross member. And that was just beat out, I don't know what it was, half a dozen or so rivets. So then I can straighten these out a lot easier when I'm just working with one at a time, not having to lift and lug and twist with everything all at once. I still may end up removing a couple of these brackets and then just re-riveting them back on later. This is the bad one. If you look at it, where are we here? Whoa, don't fall off. She's kind of a banana. Now certainly there is a little bit of a kick out for the back section, but not quite that much. So we're going to clamp this up. I've got a piece of 3-inch channel iron here that's straight. I'm going to clamp it to it, and then we're just going to work on getting this front section straight. And all I'm going to worry about is from right here forward. This is where the center cross member was, and that's where the kick out actually starts on the Model A frame for it to get a little bit wider at the back. Right here, I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Well, there, I got all those brackets out of the way. I'm drilled out, the rivets beat out, or ground out, the rivets beat out. So now I can actually clamp that channel iron to this That one right there was a little tough. It was the only one that gave me any trouble. But now I can clamp that on here. There's nothing in the road that's going to make this stand out from the frame rail other than that little bolt, which I'll cut off here in a second. Okay, next time you see it, I hopefully will have it clamped to the angle of the channel iron, and we'll start straightening it out. There, I've got that clamped in right where it starts to straighten out for the front section, or where it should straighten out for the front section. From there back, stock, it does kick out a little bit. I'm not going to worry about that yet. Oh, get my finger over the thing. So, now I've got the piece of channel iron clamped in, right where I want it. Right here where the middle cross member ends. That's where stock, they actually do kick out a little bit to go to the rear cross member. That's where I'm going to worry about from there forward right now. If I get that straight, then I can worry about getting the back where it needs to be. But I know that it's bent out a lot right there from that crack. I'll probably have to grind that out some so I can weld it. Who knows what crap's in there from all the years it's been broken. So from there to there, you know, stays in all the same right to there. And again, just like I thought, the bend starts there, there to the end. Now, it's also got a bit of a twist to it, I think, but I can deal with that after. Let's get it straight first. So now I'm going to put some more clamps on here for now, see if I can get it to come over a little bit. I may even put a little heat there just to see if it'll come. And see what we have to do. Hopefully it's just the one bend. Okay, I readjusted my clamps. And I've got them clamped out as far as it'll fit, that channel will fit inside out that way. It's pretty much even all the way. So the only bend is right there at that split. So all I'm going to have to do to straighten this out, cut a wedge out of the other side, out of the bottom, open this one up a little bit, bring her in, weld it up. It's actually going to be easy. Well, easier. Would have been nice to start with a straight frame rail. Okay, a couple of people have asked, why didn't you start with a better frame, right? There's lots of them out there. They're not that hard to come by. They're not super expensive. And I had talked about ordering a set of Speedway frame rails. And that was what I was going to do until I found this frame. The whole idea of this build is cheap. It's meant to be a cheap project that anyone can put together. Like the whole idea of original hot rodding, right? It was guys in their backyard without a whole lot of tools. A lot of what I'm doing, like you saw the other day, working on this frame was out in the yard. So this one, a couple of people said, well, that thing's garbage. It's all bent and twisted. Throw it away. Start with a good one. I guess my point is, just because it's garbage doesn't mean it's garbage to everyone. We're going to work on it. We're going to straighten it out. We're going to fix it. We're going to put it back in service. This whole thing will roll down the road again. It's going to be a bit of a Frankenstein contraption because there's not going to be hardly two parts from the same vehicle originally. But hey, that's hot rodding. It's going to be old school. So this is going to be a relatively quick, easy fix on this one. Now the other frame rail, sorry if I keep moving around on you. Should have a tripod set up out here, but I don't. The other frame rail does have a little bit, and I have to check it and see how bad it is. I'm just going to flip you around. On it, right here by this rear cross or the center cross member. Now I'll have to bring it in, do the same thing, get it all jigged up. It looks like it's got a little kink right about here on it. Looks like it may have been hit at one point in its history, right in this area. Just kabang. And it kinked a little bit on either side of that cross member. So it looks like it was hit at the center, and it kinked a little bit there. Now again, I'll bring it in, jig it up on a straight edge and make sure. But if it is, that's no problem. We'll just cut it and split it and do everything we got to do to this one. Straighten it out so that we have two good straight frame rails to start with. Yeah, that's all for now. I got to go. I'll be back either later tonight or tomorrow. Finish fixing this rail. Then we'll get them cleaned up. Maybe blast them, or I got a soda blaster. Maybe we'll do that. Or take the wire wheel to it, whatever we got to do, clean it up, get ready to start putting this thing back together. I ordered a center cross member, or front cross member today off the internet. Hopefully it'll be here in a week or so. And I ordered the rivets because I'm going to rivet it back together the way it was originally. Might be a tack weld here or there to hold them together, to give the rivets a hand, or to hold it while I set the rivets. But for now, then there's a few, if you look here, some dings and wows along the frame. Oh, there it is. Wows along the frame rail. We can straighten those out pretty easy once we get all together. A couple on the horn here as well. It's been beaten and thrashed around for 90 years. So, for 90 years old, she's not bad. I will see you in a little bit. Okay, like I said yesterday, we're going to open up where the split is so that the only thing we're trying to bend when we're straightening this out, we'll be back here, is the flat part on the back. And even if I tried to weld this up, who knows how many years that crack's been there and what kind of crap is inside of it. So, open it up a little bit. I might actually see if I can set you guys up somewhere and take a little bit better of a cut on this. Hard to do with one hand. Be right back. Okay, that'll hold you for a minute. Okay. Okay, you can see here, I cleaned out where it was cracked before, took it all the way to the far edge so that I'm only trying to bend the flat part. Cut a V in the bottom as well so that this can come together. I've got my channel iron clamped to the outside now just because it was a little too long to fit in between where it starts to narrow down at the front and where it starts to narrow at the back. This is actually better for what I wanted anyway, because then it gets that out of the way for when I try to weld inside. I've got it clamped up, on the outside there where it's nice and straight. We still got a little bit of a gap. So hard to do this with one hand. There we go. Get that vice grip clamped up. Yeah. That one clamped up. Nice and straight. So now I'm going to fire up the welder. Well, first I'm going to clean off some of this old rust and crap off here so I can get a good weld. Weld this up. Do the same thing on the bottom one. Weld it up. Grind it all smooth. And Bob's your uncle. That's if you have an Uncle Bob. I don't know, maybe you have an Uncle Ted or Fred or George. Who knows? Whoever your uncle is, doesn't going to matter because this frame will be fixed. Okay, not taking a lot of material, so we're just going to use a flat disc here on the surface. tack. Okay. Now I'm gonna weld this up. Okay, not taking a lot of material, so we're just going to use a flat disc here on the surface. That's good for now for my tack. Okay, now I'm gonna weld this up. Okay, I don't know if you remember the other day when we were tearing this apart, and I pointed out a couple of other cracks that were in this frame. So this one was a crack. If we look in real close, you can see the crack down at the bottom of that. I've ground this out pretty deep so we can get a good full penetration weld into it. I ground it a little beyond where it was cracked, so we'll make sure that there's no crack left. Now I'm going to weld this up and grind it, and then we'll see where we are with this frame. Okay, there she is. A straight frame rail. If you remember how, get my finger over it. If you remember how bent that frame was, or that frame rail was, that's a big difference. Now, I did twist you around here a little bit. Used a flapper disc, get it all smooth. Back here. All the way around. I even smoothed out the inside a little bit. Once I started doing that, I said, hey, hold it. Still see the edge of the weld there. Because I'm going to box these frames, rails anyway, so it didn't matter if they're closed in or ground smooth. No one's ever going to see it once I box this in. The other spot that was cracked, see, it's on. Turn this over. Same thing. Ground it out. V-grooved it so you get full penetration. Welded the whole thing down beyond where it was split. And now that's solid again. Now it does still have a little twist to it. If I have put my foot up here to hold this thing, if I lay it down, if I lay it down flat, the top edge of that frame rail, here, I have the welding helmet on. Top edge of that frame rail is straight as a die, bottom, a little bit of a twist to it. So, a lot easier to fix, well, relatively. We're just going to jig it up, give a slight tweak to it, because it's not very far. It's not very much. A degree or two will probably do it. But we want it as good as we can to start. So for right now, that frame rail is good to go. So, okay. So I brought the other frame rail in out of the shed. You can see it's got that crack in the same spot that it did on the other side. No big deal, we can fix that easy enough. But when I get looking, it definitely has, where'd we go here? A little bit of tweak right there. You can even see, if you look this way, where the metal deformed slightly when it bent. Who knows when this happened? It could have happened back in the 40s for all I know. Like I said, the guy I got the frame from, who was like 75 or 80, said this was a car that his father had, that this frame was from. So, no big deal. We'll just have to split it here like we did with the other one, straighten it out just like we did the other one, weld it back up, open this up, weld it up, and that should be fine. Straighten this once we get it split, because that's obviously right where it's bent. And then we're going to go along the rail of both of them, because there's a bunch of these spots where over the years, a little bit of split right there. I'm not sure if you can see that. Not so much a split as it is something's cut into it at some point. I just want to straighten out that flange on these. One other thing I did notice on this one that wasn't on that one, crash, is right here. Someone at some point in the history of this frame, looks like they cut whatever was bolted there with a torch. And of course they cut into the frame as well. So we'll have to clean that up, fill in the area where it's all burnt away. Again, it's steel. There's nothing you can't do to it. Add some, take some off, bend it, straighten it. Pretty much like working with Play-Doh if you want to look at it that way. So that's no big deal. That's an easy fix. Fill in a gap. What's the old saying? With a gap, if you can step over it, I can fill it. Review, don't buy that thing. Not that brand anyway. I'm not going to tell you what brand it is, but if you can see it, don't buy that one. Cut in the same spot. Much easier. Okay. Now this one, we're having to bend out, so that's going to actually get wider. I don't have to cut a V in that. It's just going to be that. It's going to open up, and then we're going to have a bigger gap to fill. And which way goes like that. And since I know just the one spot the bend is, I don't need the big long piece of angle or of channel iron in here. I have to do it with a much shorter piece than I did yesterday. And again, I'm only going right to where the center cross member was originally. That centered pretty good. Off for a minute doing this part because I'm fogging up that. I can't see what I'm doing. Before I do this, I'm going to actually grab you guys and I don't know if you can set this so you can see it or not. Okay, right here. Let me flip this around for a second, so I can see what you're looking at. Okay. You can see we're as wide as the cut of the grinder. When I tighten it, we open up. Now I think I can get that a little tighter. Tighten this up a little. Okay, sorry for bouncing you around. There we go. Opened it up quite a bit compared to what it was. I'm going to clamp on this side as well, get everything where I want it. Okay, I'm going to set you guys back up. But I can't do this with one hand. Set you up there. Oh. Tighten the thing. Okay. Since I got that pair there, might as well put them on. Okay. That looks pretty good. Now, okay, right now, before I weld this up, I'm going to get this close to straight rather than trying to move it all together. Or should I weld it first? I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, maybe I'll bend it first and then Okay, grind the rust off this too before I start. Okay, I'm going to get you guys out of the way for a second because I don't want to get grinding on my phone again. Okay, I decided to flatten that out first before I welded it up because where that little bend came from, why it was all pushed up, is it puckered when this originally got bent. I had just cut it, and remember when we cut it, it opened up, we showed that. Now, once I pushed that back down to where it was supposed to be, that big gap disappeared from where it opened up when we straightened it. So if I had have welded that first, I'll get it centered here. If I had have welded that first, I wouldn't have been able, the metal wouldn't have been able to push back together. So I would have been fighting the material that I put in there. So now it's straight. We have very little gap left now. We'll weld it up and it'll be as good as old. Okay, clean this up. I just got a flapper disc. Gap there, so I don't need to open it up. I'll just cut that. Now right here, it is just a touch high on this side of that back. So I'm just going to hold that down so they're flush until I get it tacked. And I got to get the welder set up. We'll just cover it a little bit beyond. Stay, stay, stay. Okay. Set underneath there. Okay. Let that cool down for a second. Probably get back down here. Keep that from opening up. Okay. I'm just going to weld that up and flip it over to the other side, all that stuff. And one other spot I forgot to mention. Right here, it's a spot, looks like it was cut with a torch. Actually, it was cut with a torch because from the back side you could still see the slag where they had burned through it. What the purpose for it was, who knows? But I'm going to fill it up. I've got a little piece made that's going to fill in most of the hole, weld it in, weld it up. That'll be solid. Done. I'll flip it over and weld it from the other side as well. And that hole is gone. I think that's the last of the welding on this thing. Now it's just to get in and start cleaning up any bends and twists on that flange. These things are almost done. Okay, we're all done. Frame rails are nice and straight right here. I'll show you in a second, wherever they are, down there somewhere. The parts that we wanted straightened out are nice and straight. That was pretty straightforward. The flanges, top and bottom, where there was a few dings and stuff along those, clamped the piece of channel iron inside, tapped them down, worked out perfect. I'll flip you around so you guys can see me. So here they are. Few marks, but you know, for the most part, this flange is nice and straight the whole way along. They are straight, they sit flat. If I flip one over here, this front end sitting flat all the way until where it starts to kick up there at the back. No rocking. That's one thing that I did find about when I flipped that one on its face too. Well, that one's still got a little bit. This one's no rocking. That one's got a little wee bit. We just got to twist it down a touch. But at this point, that's as far as I'm going to go. I got to wait till I get the cross member and everything now to get the rest of it done. Going to wrap this one up. I think this worked out great. Next step, put the frame back together. Like I said, we're going to have to wait a few weeks for the front cross member to come. But yeah, next time you see this, it'll be me putting it back together, turning it back into an actual frame. That's pretty much all I get to say today. If you're watching this, share, like, subscribe, all that stuff, you know, YouTube stuff. First time I've said that. For now, have a great day and get out your shop. And don't forget your safety glasses. Have a great day.